Hello, and welcome back to the BHF Boardroom Series. I'm Matt Hughes, founder of Accommodate Consulting and creator of the business of hotel franchising, maximizing performance and profit. Today, we're exploring a topic that feels more important than ever, storytelling, but not the fluffy kind, the strategic kind that defines positioning, shapes reputation, and increasingly determines how your hotel appears in a world of AI summaries, travel planners, and automated decision making. I'm joined by someone who has lived this across global brands, independents, openings, and rebrands. Ashleigh Donald, co-founder of Halo Business Consulting, has more than 20 years' experience in marketing, PR, and brand communications. She helps hotels find their voice, launch with impact, and build meaningful visibility that translates into commercial performance. Ashleigh, great to have you here. How are you?
Thank you so much, Matt, and thank you for that very kind introduction. It's wonderful to be here, and yes, thank you very much for having me.
No, absolute pleasure. It's really good to have you on the show today. So look, we're going to delve straight into it, and just to sort of set the stage a little bit. Actually, in your view, why is storytelling become even more important?
Storytelling has always been, in my view, the sort of bedrock of launching and sustaining a successful hotel brand, an entity. But I think the storytelling element has been accelerated so much with these AI summaries. What AI is essentially doing, and we've probably all seen a bit of a change in our feed when we're, Googling certain search terms, is that essentially AI is condensing from multiple sources and providing its own overview of your hotel, of your restaurant, of your event space. So it's pulling from all of these different sources, whether it be media coverage, guest reviews, and it's summarizing that in its own words. So we've moved from a situation where we're relying on certain keywords and what we would sort of term around the SEO, search engine optimization, to much more generative and AI-led summaries. So I think, with that in mind, we just have to be really mindful and really proactive in terms of our storytelling, and the consistency across all of these channels, because ultimately the AI summaries are now going to be leading the charge much more than we've ever had this before. So it's a new playing field, let's say. But I think it's one that we can adapt to, and there's already some great examples of that. But I think that for me is where the storytelling is so integral, and where hotels should really focus their energy to get right.
Yeah, no, it's true. You've got to be part of the conversation and somehow control that narrative. You led the marketing module inside the business of hotel franchising. What are the biggest misconceptions owners still have about marketing, especially in a franchise environment?
Well, I think, and thank you. I was delighted to be part of that series. And I think, from my perspective, I think there is still this misconception and sort of reliance on perhaps that the brand will do all of the marketing for them, when in fact, of course, you have the benefit of this global brand, their whole ecosystem, their loyalty program, which is of huge benefit. But for me, it's up to the operators and the marketeers to layer that with the storytelling, and bring that brand to life within their own community and within their own location, and sort of personalize that so it becomes memorable. So I think, the brands they provide very structured guidelines, but I think it's really then to build that distinctive localized story on top. And there's lots of different ways that you can do that. I think, tapping into your team. We're a people business after all. And there's some wonderful stories of, team members, maybe the journey that they've been on into the world of work. There's all sorts of, working with universities and colleges and looking at apprenticeships, looking at your local community, charity partners. So there's lots of different ways. And I think that, it can be right across from sort of mid-scale through to the luxury spectrum of brands. There's always a story to be found. It's just sometimes, finding that and sort of teasing out the narrative.
I think the beauty is being in hospitality, the fact that it's a human-based industry. It's people serving people, and so it's creating that human story, and that's what truly resonates with guests. And AI is great at producing these beautiful summaries and so on, but there's so much noise out there. It's creating something that's real, that people can relate to, and that's where a brand really comes to life, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just it helps you stand out. And I think with as you say, the AI summaries can pull in so many different sources of information. But I think, we are all quite discerning consumers right across the board. And if you look at it, it's much more about authenticity and aligning what your proposition is with the value of your target audience.
So actually about you, how did you go from sort of the brand side leadership to advising hotels on their visibility, voice and reputation? What's your journey?
I started my career with what is now Marriott, previously Starwood Hotels and Resorts, and I've spent more than 20 years working brand side in-house. So for Marriott, for Shangri-La, for Hilton. And that was, here in the UK and then overseas in Thailand. And then I wanted to sort of complement that experience with working more on an agency side. And I sidestepped into working for PR agencies, whereby I was heavily involved with a lot of launches. So some of the really kind of memorable ones were launching hotels and residences in Hudson Yards in New York, which is a completely new neighborhood, and the storytelling and placemaking and the just kind of bringing that whole kind of destination to life through storytelling was really powerful. And then I had the wonderful opportunity, and I think this was a big turning point for me, to be on the pre-opening team for the Shangri-La Hotel at the Shard in London. So at the time, that was the first 5-star hotel south of the river. So there was quite a lot of, again, placemaking to be done around, creating that sense of place. And that was such a catalyst, I think, for the whole kind of south bank of the river, and kind of profiling that whole area, that not all of the 5-star hotels were clustered in, Mayfair, Knightsbridge, etc. So, and of course, it's such an iconic building.
They're going to have Mandarin Oriental. They're going to have Hyatt. All of a sudden, there's a whole swathe of real estate there that's opened up in terms of opportunities, and it continues to be successful.
Well, exactly. And a lot of the work around that was really around working with key local partners. So looking at anchor tenants such as Borough Market, as the Tate Modern, Shakespeare's Globe, and kind of weaving that into, why visit this sort of area of London, which traditionally, London Bridge was very much a sort of transitory kind of transport hub, wasn't it? Whereas now it's a real destination in its own right. And you look at the, lovely kind of Sunday markets down at Maltby Street, and you've got Bermondsey Street. And it's just, I think that it was very much about working with all of the stakeholders in the local area and telling all of those stories, which really showed me, I think, about the power of storytelling. So with all of that experience and the amazing experience of working in London, we decided to relocate back up to the northeast, which is where I'm originally from. You might detect the accent. So with my kind of marketing and PR background, and my husband, who was also a hotelier, but more on the guest relations, service experience side of things, he'd previously also worked with big global brands, and also the Goring Hotel, which, for me is just such epitomizes that personalized kind of quality service. So we said, look, we felt that there was a bit of a gap in the market and an opportunity to bring our skills and experience together to support hotels, whether that be during a pre-opening period, a launch, to kind of parachute our skills in for those kind of like real task force moments where it's quite a specific plan and sort of experience level, or to act as a fractional leadership roles. A lot of the brands that we work for, we might do 1 or 2 days a week working within their in-house teams, which allows them access to sort of senior expertise, but not necessarily committing to a full-time resource. And for us, it allows us to kind of use our experience and work with multiple clients. So we've been going about 6 years now, and delighted to be working with a real spectrum of independent through to global brands to hotel operators, and launching new hotel operators in which we've got a shared partnership within practice. So it's been a wonderful journey, and very grateful. Again, we mentioned earlier that hospitality is such a people business, and I think all of the clients and people that we've worked with, we've had some sort of relationship or referral, and it's been very much about a wonderful network of friends and colleagues in the industry that have provided that support.
As a fellow business owner, that's
Yes.
it. It's all about the relationships you've built over the last 20, 30 years. And it's wonderful. Each day is different. But I wanted to touch on the piece when you were talking about the Shangri-La, and you're talking about then, it was such a great opportunity because it's such a rich tapestry of stories that you can tap into there. Sometimes it's almost difficult to land on what's really going to resonate. You and I caught up last week and we talked about frameworks and methodologies and making it easy. You shared with me the ABC framework. Let's get into that a little bit, because that really sort of captured my imagination there, which, as you mentioned, it isn't just for openings, but it applies equally to operating hotels. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about that, starting with the A.
When we work with hotels, across the board, from, small, working directly with the owners, right through to sort of big global brands. For me, one of the things I really wanted to simplify and support the teams are around just having a simple but effective framework. So at Halo, we work towards what we call an ABC framework. So it's your audience, your brand, and your communications, in that order. And I think sometimes it's quite tempting, especially with the explosion of different channels and social media. And, we live in such a visual and connected world, is to kind of jump onto, oh, we need to be present on this channel, and let's talk sort of tactics around communication before we even just come back to basics and looking at identifying your audience. So I think if you don't know who you're talking to, then you don't know what message resonates. You don't know what values are aligned. So I think it's about, taking the time to identify your audience and looking at those different travel personas and the different guest archetypes, what motivates them, what resonates them, where their values are. Some brands don't necessarily target a sort of age range necessarily. It's more of a mindset. So there's lots of different nuances. And I think really narrowing that down, and I would say ideally maybe 4 to 6 key sort of guest archetypes for your brand or your hotel is ideal. And then really working out in quite a lot of detail, where they're coming from, what they're consuming in terms of media. So where do you need to show up, and really sort of narrowing that down. And then once you've got that clear, for me, the sort of stories, the images, the channels often fall into place quite naturally. So you kind of define your audience, and then you're looking at your brand. So I suppose that there's lots of options here. And I think from a franchising perspective, looking at what brand is aligning with that target audience. Is it more of an independent brand? Is it the global brand that you need that, I suppose, reassurance and that presence that would be better suited to the audience that you're targeting? Or is it what is becoming increasingly popular, is this kind of soft brand?
Is that easier sometimes, where the hotel has a brand already and yet trying to amplify it, or is it a case of you having to kind of track back and unpick a little?
It's it can be a real mixture of both, I think. So if I use the example of Montcalm collection, and we had the wonderful privilege of supporting their team to launch their Montcalm Mayfair property. I think that the Montcalm Mayfair is very much the kind of flagship of the group, and setting the bar in terms of the aligning the whole collection and sort of changing its positioning slightly. But they had such a great base to start with, their sustainability credentials. They were one of their hotels in the collection. We're the first B Corp hotel in the UK, which now is following suit from a number of different hotel groups now. They had a great foundation of community and charity partners. And then I think with the relaunch of Montcalm Mayfair as an autograph collection property, we were able to layer what was already a really firm foundation, but really amplify the storytelling. So for each autograph collection, they have their distinctive mark. And for Montcalm Mayfair, it's the mark of the garden. And in the research that we did, we identified that the hotel sat on an ancient forest. It was the ancient forest of Great Middlesex, which kind of added into the story, which was great. There was also that the building is of the Georgian era, and the garden is such a kind of key part of Georgian society. It was a place where people would meet, intellectual exchange. The gardens were often quite wild and playful and sort of stimulated curiosity. So we were able to bring that into the Mark of the Garden storytelling for Montcalm Mayfair. And that is brought through everything from the design to the Into the Garden afternoon tea, which has launched, which has references to Constance Spry, who was a really pioneering florist and quite creative, but also was the co-curator of the Coronation Chicken Sandwich, which features on the afternoon tea menus.
Yeah, I love how you can find those threads and those. It's almost the subtle references that for a lot of people might fly under the radar, but occasionally you'll pick it up, and it's just that attention to detail that I think so truly resonates with that particular brand's target demographic.
Exactly. So I think it's about finding those stories, and I think it was there was a lot of intention that went into the design, but there were also lovely sort of chance moments that appeared, or someone would share a little nugget of information that we were able to research. So I think that when you're looking at your brand and your storytelling and the B of the ABCs, that's where it's really integral to invest that time and, really develop, the brand that you're working with, if it's a brand above the door, but ultimately what is your story, and own your own narrative.
So it's that balance, isn't it? It's that balance between your local narrative and then the brand, the balance with the corporate brand as well. I mean, there's that constant, not friction, but the communication and alignment and support, I suppose.
Exactly. And I think seeing the brand as an opportunity to add to the framework rather than it being a restrictive kind of straitjacket of these are sort of the requirements. And of course the requirements are there for that consistency and for that global kind of trust that has been garnered over many years with that brand, and you're a sort of steward of this brand. But there's still a lot of flexibility that allows you to bring your own local identity and storytelling to that brand. And I think that can be the case for any brand. It's just about finding that story.
It'll continue to evolve and grow if there's a strong narrative. It's not just a case of around the opening and the positioning. It's then the identity of the hotel. So we've got audience, we've got brand,
and then is the communication. And with my kind of PR hat on, I think this is always, for me, I really enjoy the communication. And there's so many communication channels. And I think this is where it comes back to your audience and your brand narrative. You do not need to be on every single social media platform. You do not need to be on every OTA platform. It's about finding the right platforms for your audience and doing that well. So I think that's where it just really kind of keeps you very focused. And there's so much around the communication. And I know we'll come on to talking a little bit more in detail about like launch and pre-opening, but I think that you just need to be very purposeful with your communication. Don't kind of flood everything out at once. Allow your story to kind of have different moments to your different segments, and have a clear plan and that everyone follows. Look at all of your different touch points, your full guest journey. That our guest journeys are beginning so much earlier than ever before. from that real discovery phase.
People might be booking closer to the arrival date, but as you say, that journey starts well before when they start researching. They get, they find out about the property, and it might be written print. It could be all kinds of different channels, but it's just creating that awareness.
It is, and it can be overwhelming. And I think that's when you just need to, again, just take a moment to just validate, okay, well, where is my audience? What channels do I need to be present on? What publications do I need to be speaking to, because these are the publications that my audience will be reading, and define your target media list, your influencers that you might want to work with. Who are they speaking to? Is that an audience that you want to tap into? Sometimes, you can be kind of dazzled by the metrics of, oh, they've got X number of followers and, oh, their content's so lovely. But actually, if they're not, in the sphere of your audience, then there's just no point, right?
Wrong country or wrong price point, or yeah.
Exactly.
What helps a hotel create a story people actually remember?
Franchise is almost the frame, and your hotel is the picture inside it, which I quite like to just visualize. And you can tell I'm quite a visual person, but just, I think you need to look at, what are the promises of your brand, and then how can you add a layer of personality? And I think, again, it's kind of, people buy from people. We're in this people business. What people stories have you got within your own team? And what's going on in your local community that you can really be part of? How can you create stories, whether it's specific team members, whether it's service culture piece? There's, again, so many different stories, but I think to have something that's quite emotionally connecting in a way, and that could be, a charity initiative, a local, well-being or community initiative, that there's so much going on. And I think, as stakeholders within, where our hotels are, and our local community, we do have an amazing opportunity, and in many ways, we should absolutely be looking at ways to give back as well. So I think that can also just weave into that memorable storytelling, whether it's a really lovely local partnership, or you've supported a school, or you've done an amazing kind of sustainability initiative that's really had an impact on the local area. So I think thinking local but then acting global in terms of your brand is a good sort of.
Everyone's got a story, everyone's got their challenges and so on, go on, but talking to the people, and that may be the people that work at the hotel, and maybe the people who stay at the hotel. But you also talked about sustainability and the broader ESG side of things. In hospitality, we're very lucky because the social side of things is our bread and butter. And if you can bring that to life. But talk to me in your experience, because, in prototype and mid-scale hotels where the physical product can feel somewhat standardized, in fact, that is the strength of the brand, how do we avoid becoming generic?
So I think, again, as you said, the benefit is that, the guests will go to those hotels knowing what to expect. And that's often in terms of maybe the features and the amenities. And, they kind of know what they're going to get when they walk in the door. But again, I think it can come down to the service culture of the team members, and, them sharing stories. And there's still lovely personalized kind of moments of magic whereby a guest might have, had a really terrible flight and they've lost their luggage, or there's some problem that can be solved through the framework of an SOP and a certain level of what we can offer that guest. But it could be a simple gesture of, please come and sit and have a coffee. Let me, help you contact this and sort this out, and we'll bring the luggage up to your room. So whilst the standardization of the physical and the visual brand, I think there's still such opportunity around the service culture, problem resolution, just and acting on guest reviews as well. And we talked about the importance of reputation, and AI is taking that now and building your hotel story around that, is looking at your TripAdvisor, Booking.com, your Google reviews, and identifying, are there areas where we can improve our service, and have we just missed a beat there with kind of missing that element? What can we do to constantly improve and have that feedback loop? And then adjust that into your service offering as well. So you're really, taking on your guest feedback and acting on it as well. So I think it's small gestures have such a big impact in those cases, and it doesn't have to cost anything more.
They need to communicate it, because there is this flow of information constantly. And, people
Exactly.
like to hear human stories because things go wrong. But hotels, the beauty, what drew me to hotels is it's like home from home, and so it's people
Yeah.
looking after people. And these little stories where somebody's gone the extra mile to make your stay or make your life just a little bit better. It's, those are the things that make the difference. So in terms of visibility and reputation in our, the AI world we find ourselves as we go into 2026 and AI taking over the world. You mentioned earlier, actually, about the shift from sort of SEO to AI-driven summaries, and I see all these headlines. SEO is not important anymore. SEO is extinct. What does that mean for hotels and owners practically?
So I think a lot, and it is an evolution from SEO to GEO and the sort of AI summaries. That hotels being able to rank in certain search terms. So traditionally, I suppose with SEO and then with search engine marketing, hotels would perhaps identify a number of like keywords or sentences or phrases that they wanted to be ideally featured in your first page of whatever your chosen search engine is. So you would build that into the back end of your, your sort of technical side of your website build. You would then feature blogs, etc., with all of those keywords that you want to be associated with. But if you think about when people now are using ChatGPT to plan their, travel, and I did it in the summer. We went to Thailand, and I asked for it to provide an itinerary and pull in, best restaurants in Bangkok, for example. So if you're looking at being featured in these kind of AI summaries, we just need to be thinking about, again, back to the stories that we want to tell, is that do we want to be known as the perfect location to, I don't know, see the London lights and the festive lights, and do you therefore need to build some blog articles that can easily be pulled, and you can rank for those with those words that AI can just scrape and sort of see that that's being ranked there. I think we're thinking about, I suppose, how AI is kind of amalgamating all of those different sources. You're not just ranking for one keyword, it's sort of summarizing all of these sources. So that can be looking at really high quality editorial coverage, it can have your reviews, etc. So I think it's about, that consistency of storytelling. So if you want to be ranked as the best hotel for certain thing, you want to ensure that you've got something that says that in all of your channels, that you've got some great editorial around that you've got blogs, that you've got social media posts, that it's kind of building that story. So you're owning that narrative rather than AI just scraping it and maybe coming up with some inaccuracies and not necessarily telling the story that you want to tell. So I think it's building on the SEO work that has been done. But
if we think about the opening, say months, 1 to 3 of an opening, what was the smartest PR move a hotel can make, or what could they get seriously wrong?
Well, I think so. 1 to 3 of an opening, I think, is about engaging with your stakeholders, and whether that is local media, whether it's partners, content creators, and inviting them behind the scenes to help to start to share that story. So, if you're quite a design-led hotel, can you bring some of the sort of design-led publications, content creators in and start to sort of tell that behind-the-scenes storytelling? Can you feature some of your key spokespeople talking about the inspirations and the local storytelling, your concierge that has been appointed, and what they're looking forward to. So I think you can start to build that narrative. And again, always thinking about your ABCs, like who you're speaking to, what your kind of brand USP and positioning is. And then, as I mentioned before, try not to share everything at once, because actually, and I think particularly in London, when we look at how many hotel openings are, I mean, it's just such a competitive landscape. So we really need to ensure that we've got a sustained plan that allows us to story tell. So whether that's you perhaps look at your design story, your F&B story, do you have a notable chef that you can talk about and profile? What about your event space? Can you do an unveiling event with a partnership publication, for example? What about your suites? Can you do an exclusive with one of the top tier publications so they can start to really delve deep into the storytelling and bring your designer in on the story to kind of show them all of the different, elements that have brought together this aesthetic.
Let's now talk a little bit about the last 12 months and maybe talk to you about consumer expectations. What surprised you?
For me, it was about how quickly guests expect frictionless digital experiences. And that can be, everything from that whole booking journey, just even methods of payment. And it really still surprises me that that not all hotels have things like Apple Pay, Google Pay, and we use our phones for everything now. But I think there's still a bit of work to be done about connecting legacy systems and POSs and all the rest of it. And I think that's where, the OTAs do lead the charge when it comes to those frictionless booking journeys. And I think there's still a lot that hoteliers can look at their own platforms and look at what's working there. So I think there's definitely the frictionless to pay. Again, that unforgiving gap between what's promised online and what's delivered on property. And I think that's connecting, the marketing and the comms. People will pay a premium. And look, we've seen all sorts of challenges and squeezes on our budgets, but we recognize that a lot of people still ring fence budget for travel and for experiences. But I think ever more we have to ensure that we're delivering a really authentic experience that feels aligned with their values and that they feel that they've got value for money. No matter what the price is, that they feel that they've got value. So I think that is for me the kind of key lessons from the last 12 months or so.
I think you've hit the nail on the head in terms of value, and everyone is always looking for value. Where in your interaction with owners, where are owners still undervaluing marketing, even when the numbers show clear impact?
I think it's one of those departments and cost centers, and I'm saying a cost center, it should be more of an investment, shouldn't it? It's one that feels that, we'll just strip that back, or we'll just bring it in a bit later into the timeline. And actually, it really needs to be in those very early stages that you're having those conversations and having your marketing kind of part of that sort of scene setting, and then right the way up to opening. So I think treating marketing as a cost rather than an investment.
Actually, what are you excited about next year as we move into 2026, whether with Halo or within practice?
I've had a really busy year, I think. Amazing projects this year with clients. So hotel openings, I mentioned Montcalm Mayfair, the launch of In Practice, who, really excited to kind of continue building their visibility and working on their hotel portfolio with wonderful partners, including Accommodate Consulting and some of our other clients. And then for Halo, we've been, I think, looking at that kind of more thought leadership. And we started a podcast last year, which we're continuing to build and have wonderful guests. And Matt, you've been a guest on there. And, I think wonderful opportunity, and like we're doing now, to have longer form conversations, and I just find podcasting such a great medium to consume information. Building on that thought leadership, the education modules. I do a volunteer role with Sheffield Hallam University as an entrepreneur in residence. So looking at course creation with them, ensuring that the hospitality courses are fit for purpose for into the workplace, and doing guest lectures. So looking forward to seeing what their plans are for next year and how I can contribute to that. And really looking at growing and developing Halo and other hotel opportunities and launches and things. So yes, looking forward to sort of what's next.
2026 is going to be a wonderful year, and I'm looking forward to it as well. There's been a lot of groundwork for the last 12 months. It'd be lovely to get to know you guys and In Practice, and I feel this is just the beginning of something super special. One last question for you, and something for me when I'm always looking through the eyes of an owner. One thing that you wish every owner asked before appointing a marketing partner?
How will you connect what you do with my commercial goals? or my kind of overall goals, because I think it's not, marketing isn't just a slice of the pie as it's such. It has to kind of work within the whole plan and the whole vision for the owner.
Well, that's it at the end of the day. It's one part of the puzzle, but it's extremely important. So, Ashleigh, look, thank you. That was packed with insight and genuinely practical guidance. And from your ABC framework to the shift from SEO to AI-led summaries, and the importance of owning your narrative and making it come to life. There's a huge amount here that owners can apply pretty much straight away. And if you'd like to connect with Ashleigh or explore the work that she and the team at Halo do head over to gohalo.co.uk. And I've added the link below so you can do that. And for more conversations like this, stay with us here at the BHF Boardroom Series. Subscribe to the channel to ensure that you don't miss our next episode, where we will continue to dig into the wonderful world of hotel franchising, maximizing performance and how to turn strategy into execution without the noise.